All right, Sandra, we thought we would broaden out this conversation. Thanks for setting us up with that. We want to bring in Dr. Jeff Gardere into the conversation, a board-certified clinical psychologist, and by the way, associate professor at Touro College of Osteopathic Medicine, and a friend. Look,
Yes.
as soon as we saw that this report coming down from the NBA and Sandra being on it, we're like, we have to talk about why this is happening. What do you think is at play here, Dr. Gardere? Do you think it's pandemic related? Have we suddenly forgot how to behave around other people?
Michaela, I think that's part of it, certainly. People been in lockdowns for a very, very long time. They've forgotten some social rituals. They certainly have a much less discipline. We're in the playoffs. So, we certainly see a lot of adrenaline being released here, a lot of excitement. But I think part of it is also just really bad behavior on the part of sports fans traditionally. And part of that is because we have not criminalized some of the behaviors of some of the fans. There is unequal enforcement against the players as far as punishments versus the fans. So the fans may be more entitled. They may also have this idea in their heads that these sports individuals, sports stars, are nothing more than gladiators, and they are there for their entertainment value. I think all of those things play a part in this. And we know traditionally around the world, and we have to say it, that there have been athletes of color who have had racial epithets thrown against them too.
Absolutely.
And we are living in a very racialized world, and we have to look at that as being part of the issue too.
Absolutely. But by the way, it doesn't feel like it's just resigned to the sports world, right? I mean, we've been seeing anger spill over in a lot of different spaces, not just with sports fans.
I think that's part of what's coming out of this pandemic, the mental health tsunami. We've seen a 146% increase in crimes against Asians and Asian Americans. And we see voter suppression laws being passed across the nation. So there is really a mentality of anger, of hate, and even mental instability. And I think a lot of that has to do with the after effects of the pandemic.
So some of it, how do we get back to some of that? Because the great thing about a society is at its best, it's a self-righting organism, right? Like there's sort of these checks and balances. We check each other. You mentioned the fact about maybe penalizing some of these knuckleheads that are doing the stuff at the arenas and such. But how else does it spring back? It doesn't seem like it's bouncing back real quick. I know we were locked up for over a year. It's going to take some time for it to come back to us.
Well, specifically with the NBA, they are talking about an enhanced code of conduct and even criminalization of the behaviors on the part of fans. But it might even be, with the NBA players if they act out initially, which we're not seeing much of course. But the other part of that for everyone is I really do believe that we have been affected by the pandemic. And a lot of the schools and a lot of the institutions are talking about something called a checkup from the neck up. How are people doing now that they are going through and we're almost post-pandemic? And for now, at least, and about the return into society. How are people handling these abrupt shifts in behaviors and learning all these rituals and coming into a new normal? That has to affect us psychologically.
100%.
And so it's important that we offer treatment to everyone, but know where they're at so we can meet them there.
Dr. Jeff Gardere, you can count on us having a conversation on future show about a checkup from the neck up, because that right there, I mean, it has to be at the base of what's going on. We adapted. I was really interested in watching how we adapted to living in isolation and living during the pandemic. I was proud of us. It was also one of the hardest things that I think many of us have had to do in our lifetime. But then to come back out of it, of course, it's going to have a residual effect.
Just so many paradigm shifts. Certainly COVID has taken us from an evolution to a revolution, and we've seen that politically too. But we just are not built in a way to go from one scenario to
To
another
another,
so
yeah.
quickly, especially with anxiety, depression, PTSD. So we are going to have to deal with this post-pandemic reentry anxiety, which is also another major issue. So we've got to pay attention to all of these things and offer a lot of long-term treatment and strategies.
Thanks for pointing a light at it for us, Dr. Gardere. We always appreciate your time and your sensibilities and your wisdom. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
All right.